So welcome to everybody to this class today. Now we're going to start as we have already shown this presentation before. For people who want to, who have never seen it, it is good to see this because the visual presentation, it is easy to understand the Vipassana meditation, the insight meditation, what are the steps, what are the details one should remember. For those who already have seen it, of course, they can refresh the knowledge, or if they can also skip it and join the class, the meditation class after an hour. So it depends on you. So then now regarding insight meditation, this is something very particular way of doing meditation, and we're going to explain this. So then insight meditation was first taught by the historical Gotama Buddha more than 2,500 years ago, and it is unique in its kind. In fact, it was through insight meditation that he himself achieved enlightenment and became a Buddha. Insight meditation exists today in its original form in Theravada Buddhism, which retained the Buddha's original teachings. Now, Theravada Buddhism are in the countries like Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Myanmar, what is Burma. These are the main countries. So, and they still preserve the original teaching of the Buddha. That's why insight meditation has been preserved in these countries. The word used by the Buddha for this meditation is Vipassana, which means specialized, expanded vision, seeing. Passana means to see something but in a very special way, an expanded way. So then this seeing, passana, exposes the truth of the impermanency, the suffering, and the impersonal and unsubstantial nature of all material and mental phenomena of existence. And indeed, Vipassana does not use the usual ways of meditation, but the systematic and methodical observation of material and mental phenomena for the penetration of into the actual nature. What is the actual nature? Is impermanence, which is called anicca, suffering, which is dukkha, and not self, which is called anatta. It includes exercise in mindfulness and awareness, which is called sati sampajanya, that are used to observe and understand the impermanent, unstable, transient nature of all mental and material phenomena, the attachment to which creates our suffering. The main principle in Vipassana meditation is observation of rise and fall of every material and mental phenomenon. Therefore, if we observe any mental and material phenomenon, we can see that there is a rise, there is a fall. And this, it's repeated again and again. So in this way, you can understand the impermanence of our continuum of mental and material phenomena. Vipassana observation is essentially to observe the rise and fall of every observed phenomenon, which indicates how the observation is to be developed to deepen understanding of the under investigation. So now the information from where this Vipassana meditation comes, it is from the Discourse of the Buddha, which is called the Discourse on the 4 applications of mindfulness. So now you have heard about mindfulness, and you can hear about mindful meditation. But nowadays, the way mindful meditation is marketed, it is completely different from how the Buddha taught it. And one must know from where the original teaching comes. And this is this discourse, which is called in Pali language, Satipatthana Sutta. Sutta means discourse, Sati means mindfulness, Patthana means application. Sometimes they translate it as foundations. So we translate this application because you have to apply this mindfulness for every moment of observation. So this is the discourse what the Buddha called it, the direct path to Nibbana, Ekaya no Magu. Now, Satipatthana Sutta is one of the most important and widely studied and practiced discourses of the Buddha, acting as the foundation for mindfulness meditation practice, with particular emphasis on the development of insight meditation, Vipassana. It is called the heart of Buddhist meditation. It contains the most comprehensive explanation of the immediate and straightforward way to achieve the Buddhist goal, which is Nibbana or Nirvana. It is, as the Buddha calls it, the direct path to the realization of Nibbana. It lays down a complete system in order to train the mind to see that with tiny precision the real nature of the body, the feelings, the thoughts, and mental immaterial phenomena, and overcome the attachment to them. The Buddha begins this discourse with a statement: this is the direct path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for the attainment of the true way, for the realization of Nibbana, namely the 4 applications of mindfulness. Why did the Buddha call it the direct path? So it is because to distinguish it from other meditations, such as the 10 Kasina meditations, the 4 Brahma Viharas, the 6 recollections, Buddhanusati, etc. These belong to the Samatha meditation. This is called tranquility meditation, serenity meditations. This can lead to Nibbana, but not directly, and can lead to side tracks. Not directly means they have limitations. Now, this tranquility meditation, any other meditation except Vipassana has its own limitations because they don't analyze phenomena and they can't give up attachment to them. So then that's why it is, one can use them. Samatha meditation can use them, but one must know there is a certain limit. This Samatha meditation, they can produce a strong, powerful concentration, but beyond that, the meditator has no the tools to analyze, while Vipassana meditation gives one the tools to analyze them. So therefore, and it leads to Nibbana. Therefore now, it is said that however, Satipatthana leads directly to the final goal, Nibbana. Therefore, the purpose of the 4 application of mindfulness is the purification of beings from defilements and so forth. And as the Buddha says, for a long time this mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion. Through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. So therefore now, as the Buddha says, it starts from the mind, the way we perceive our world, and Vipassana, it's called, has to do with cleansing of the mind from all these defilements. Now we're going to speak more detail about these 4 applications of mindfulness. What are these 4 applications? It is the observation of the body. This is called Kayanupassana. That means how we can start observing the body. So then observation of feelings, which is called Vedananupassana, observation of thoughts, Chittanupassana, and observation of mental and material phenomena. So therefore now we have 3 areas for observation, 4 areas of observation. These things, body, feelings, thoughts, and mental and material phenomena, they are not outside us. We carry them every single moment with us. So therefore now this observation of Vipassana is nothing to do with metaphysical concept, it has to do with ourselves to understand from what we are composed of. So then how our constitution of mind and body is. So then, and to overcome attachment to it, to them. So therefore now around us, what we have, it is the body, is a feeling, thoughts, mental immaterial phenomena, and the observation has to be done with mindfulness and awareness. So then the observation of the body, therefore, the feelings and the thoughts and mental immaterial phenomena is not only to be done to know that they are there, but to see that they rise and fall, to see the impermanent nature. There is nothing static in these phenomena of the body and mind. So now if you start to observe, you have to observe what is more obvious to your experience. This is how you have to start with Vipassana meditation. So then now, for example, if the body is more prominent, now bodily processes are more prominent, let's see, the breath is more prominent. So you can start observing the breath. If the feelings are more prominent, like pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling are prominent, you can start observing the feelings. If thoughts are more prominent, you can start observing the thoughts. And if mental material phenomena are more obvious or more prominent to your experience, you can start with mental immaterial phenomena. We're going to explain all these things for you to understand the dimensions where this observation can be expanded. So now, regarding the observation of the body, the Buddha says, here, one abides observing the body as a body, urgent, fully aware, and mindful, having put away covert nuisance and grief of the world. Here, what we can see it is, urgent means one should not be sleepy, so one should be energetic. Fully aware and mindful means one should not be forgetful. One should be very, very mindful to remember exactly what is going on in this body, feelings, mind, and so on. So, and then the observation of the body can be done with the breathing. Now, for example, we have all our body expands and contracts all the time. That is one function of our body. One can take this as an object and observe the body. So, and this is called mindfulness of breathing. This can be practiced as serenity meditation, but it can be practiced also as insight meditation. In this case, we are going to explain the insight meditation part, how to practice Vipassana meditation on the body. So now, our body, it is all the time inhales and exhales. We have the in-breath. Now, if you take in-breath, you can mentally note in-breath. If you take out-breath, you mentally note out-breath. So this is how you have to observe in-breath, out-breath, in-breath, out-breath. That is the first part, to know, to be fully aware of that. So then this observation can be done on the nose, on the chest, on the belly. Depends where you can feel it more prominently, when you can feel the breath more prominently. So that is the first part of to observe the breath. So once we know the breath, then the second part is to see it from the inside, to practice insight meditation, to see from the Vipassana point of view. And as we have told, the main principle in Vipassana meditation is observation of rise and fall of every material mental phenomena. So therefore now, and if we see the breath, it all the time rises and falls. So that's why now the Vipassana part is the second part one should know. That's why the Buddha says, one abides observing in the body its nature of rising and its nature of falling and its nature of both rising and fall. Therefore, this is the principle here of Vipassana, to see the rise and fall of the breath also here. Now the body, it is our breath, but it can be other, or can explain other ways how to observe the body, and also to see how also these processes also rise and fall. So now in Pali, those who know want to know the Pali text, here it is it. Samudaya means rise, Dhamma means nature, Anupasi means observing, Kaya means the body, Viharat means abide. Therefore, one abides to see the nature of arise in the body. So, and Vaya means fall, Dhamma means nature, Anupasa means observing, Kaya means body, and Viharat means abiding. So, and here again, Samudaya Vaya means to see the rise and fall, Dhamma means the nature of observing, the nature of rise and fall. Either one observes the rise or the fall, one observes both the rise and fall. Therefore, in this meditation Vipassana, we have two kinds of observation. The observation is with mindfulness awareness, but it has the first part, which is knowing the object of observation. And the second part is, which is Vipassana, seeing its nature of rise and fall. What is the object of observation here? It is our body. So therefore, and how we can see its nature of rise and fall, how to practice Vipassana is to see its nature of rise and fall. So therefore now, only to know the body is not Vipassana. Vipassana, it is to know the body plus to know that it rises and falls every moment by moment. So therefore now, and in this context, you have the in our body, you can see the in-breath, you can know it. Now in-breath means that the body expands, you can have an expansion in the body, and there is a rise. Our body rises, expands. So, and then we have the out-breath. If we do the out-breath, then our body contracts. This is the fall. This expansion and contraction, which is called the rise and fall. Our body is not static, all the time it moves. There is a movement of rise and fall, expansion and contraction. So then whether we are awake or asleep, this rise and fall, it is a phenomenon which continues all the time. So it's nothing static in our body. Of course, if we go observing, you can see more details in our body, that inside our body also nothing is static. Our cells also have the same expansion and contraction phenomenon. So therefore now for the in-breath, in the out-breath, this rise and fall, it is continuous. Means there is something which you can see this rise, fall, and continuous rise and fall. So then that is how one can see the impermanent nature of this body. There is nothing solid in our body. So then therefore now for the in-breath, if you observe the body, you mental note in-breath, that is the first part, and you can call it rise. So for the out-breath, you mental note out-breath, you can call it fall. So this is how you can start. It's called to observe. The first part is the in-breath. So the second part is to see how it rises. So then how also it falls. So then this observation can be done at the tip of the nose, on the chest, or on the belly, wherever you feel it more obvious, more prominent. So then now if you feel it in the nose, for the in-breath, for example, you may note in-breath and see the rise. So for the out-breath, you may note out-breath and see the fall of it. So then again, for the in-breath, you can see rise and fall, because the in-breath itself rises also. If you want to see more details, you can see it in the gross way, or in more details, the in-breath itself rises and falls. That means the in-breath, when the air starts going inside the nose, that is the beginning, that is the rise. And when it stops going inside the nose, it is the end, that is the fall. Therefore, the in-breath itself rises and falls. So then again, for the out-breath, as called, you can see the rise and fall of the out-breath. Out-breath means if the air exceeds our body, that's the beginning, that is the rise. When it stops exiting the body, that is the fall, that is the end. So therefore now every movement has a beginning and end. So then this beginning end, we call it rise and fall, because it can be observed in many other phenomena, in thoughts and feelings and so forth. So then for you mental note in-breath, rise and fall, out-breath, and out-breath, rise and fall. That is how to observe the body. Of course, there are other ways one can observe the body. For example, if we walk, we lift our leg, we move it forwards, and we place it. That's called. That is one part of observation. But then you can see the Vipassana part, which is the rise and fall of this movement. So every time we walk, or we lift our leg, our left leg or right leg, you can see that we all the time move it forwards, and after there is a fall, we place it on the ground. We can't keep our leg scroll up all the time. There is a fall. So therefore, the energy which we have in our legs can't last eternally. It falls down. So this kind of rise and fall can be observed also when we are walking. So one can see also more details. For example, if we lift our heel and move the leg, every single moment, if one observes, there is a rise and fall there. So therefore now one can see it in more details. So then one can start from the gross way and can continue and seeing the details also of rise and fall. So other ways how to observe the body is to, while we sit, while we stand, while we walk, or while lying down. So when we sit, for example, before sitting, we start sitting. After we sit some time, after there is an end. We can't keep it for a long time like that. There is somehow a limit where you go. Therefore, the beginning of our sitting is a rise, and the end of our sitting is the fall. So here again, we can see the rise and fall in our sitting. When you stand, we can't stand there for long. There is a limit. There is the beginning and there is the end. The beginning is a rise and the end is the fall. So when we walk, there is a kind of limit how much we can walk. There is a beginning and an end. So for the beginning, there is a rise. For the end, there is a fall. So when we lie down, there is a beginning and the end how much we can lie down. So then the beginning is the rise and the end is the fall. So every time we move, every movement we do in our body, we can see there is a rise and fall. There is a beginning and end of every movement. So then this is how one can observe the movements of the body and see how these movements are not static. They consist of this phenomenon of rise and fall. So other ways to observe the rise and fall is to see the solidity in our body, to see the liquidity, the heat, and the wind element in our body, how all these elements, they also rise and fall. So therefore, there are different ways how to see, to observe the body. The Buddha explains many more ways. Of course, in this class, I can't explain everything because most of them are beginners, are not more advanced meditators. So for advanced meditator, of course, there are other classes. So now, but as a start, it is good for you to know how you can observe the body. Even if you wash your dishes, you clean your table, you eat, you smell, you taste, you can observe all these phenomena and so forth and see how there is nothing static, all they rise and fall. So then by observing the body like that again and again, so one comes to the conclusion and that mindfulness that there is the body is simply established in oneself, the Buddha says. So one can see that there is the body. And we are going to explain what it means there is the body. So how one does not identify oneself with the body. And this is to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning is there is only the body or a bodily process, not a being, not a person. Now, if you observe the breath, it is just a bodily process. It's not a being, not a person, not a woman or a man. Our breath is not a woman, not a man. So, or our movements and so forth, they are just processes. That's called. We don't identify ourselves with the body because we can see this impermanent nature of the body. So then it is not the self, not one belongs to a self. Not I, not mine. Not somebody, not one belongs to somebody. And this is for the sake of a wider and wider and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is called Yatha Bhuta Jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. So by doing so, the Buddha says, and one abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So then the meaning is, independent, not depending on craving and speculation on wrong views regarding the body. So not clinging to anything in the world, one does not cling to anybody, to any, that this is myself or what belongs to myself. So this is how, because we identify on oneself with our body, and this is how we suffer. If something changes in our body, we think, I changed, I, and so forth, and we suffer, we cling. If we see it completely objectively, we can see only processes in this body, but not me, not myself. So this is how one can detach oneself with the body and don't identify oneself with him. So then, and then another observation, application of mindfulness is also observation of the body, because we don't consist only of the body, we consist also of feelings. And in this context, the Buddha explains also for people who feel the feelings are more prominent, they can start observing the feelings. So then, and then the Buddha says, and abides observing feelings as feelings, urgent, fully aware and mindful. Here again, this is the same sequence. One should not energetic, not lethargic while observing the feelings. Fully aware and mindful means one should not be forgetful. So now regarding the observation of the feelings, there are different feelings arise in our body. For example, pleasant feeling, unpleasant or painful feeling, a neutral feeling, feeling connected with material stimuli, and feeling connected with immaterial or spiritual meditative stimuli. So therefore, these feelings can be taken as an object of observation. Some people find it easy to observe the feelings, so therefore they can start observing the feelings themselves. So here the Buddha explains how to do so, and he says, when feeling a pleasant feeling, one understands I feel a pleasant feeling. So when feeling a painful feeling, one understands I feel a painful feeling. When feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, one understands I feel a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So this is first how to identify, to know this feeling. This is knowing the feeling, what kind of feeling this is. And after going to the insight meditation, and here the Buddha says, one abides observing the feelings, the nature of rising and the nature of falling and the nature of both rising and falling. Here's a principle which I've called the Vipassana principle. That's why this observation of with mindfulness and awareness has two parts. The first part is knowing the object of observation. And the second part is Vipassana, seeing its nature of rise and fall. In this case, the object of observation is feelings. And the Vipassana part is to see the rise and fall of feelings. So therefore, the Buddha says, here, yes. Now regarding the feelings, there is one thing one has to say. One point has to mention. Now, some of the feelings, if they occur, if they arise, they don't fall immediately. They stay for some time. So then, in that case, now, if one observes the feelings, one can see the rise, but one has to wait for some time till one can see the fall. That gap between rise and fall, there is a phase which is called the duration time, how long the feelings stay. So therefore now in another sutta, the Buddha speaks about this duration, and he says, here one knows feelings as they arise and as they stay. For example, if the feelings stay, you can tell staying till they stay. And then as they disappear, one should know the feelings, how they disappear also. Therefore, the Buddha describes here three stages: the rising, staying, and fall. So then that is with the feelings. With the breath, because the breath has a certain speed, it rises and falls very fast. So one may be not necessary to see the staying period. But with the feelings stay for some times, and therefore one can observe them, how they stay. The time they stay, one should have to mentally note staying, till they fall, and one mentally not fall. So then, in this case, now what we have, if you have pleasant feeling, you mentally note pleasant feeling, and after see the rise, staying, and fall of this feeling, and mental note rise, staying, and fall. If you feel an unpleasant feeling, you mental note unpleasant feeling, and you can see the rise, staying, and fall, and mental note rise, staying, fall. So for the observation of, again, for the neutral feeling, if you feel a neutral feeling, you mentally note neutral feeling, and try to see the rise, staying, fall, and mentally note rise, staying, and fall. So by doing so, then the conclusion comes that, as the Buddha says, mindfulness, that there is a feeling, is simply established in oneself, to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning is that there is only the feeling or a feeling process, not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not a self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. Because these feelings, as called, they change all the time. There is nothing permanent in them. They are not static. The time we try to call this is my feeling, this feeling is already gone. So many of these feelings, we don't tell them to come, and they come. We don't tell them to stay, they stay. We don't tell them to go, they go. For example, if we have a pleasant feeling, we may want to keep it for long. But how long? It does not stay, it goes. If we have a unpleasant feeling, painful feeling, we never call this feeling to come. Painful feeling, where are you? Why are you not coming? We don't tell like that. It comes. We don't tell to stay, it stays. We don't tell to go, it goes. So even if sometimes we want it to go, it does not go. Therefore, who is this feeling? It cannot be me, it cannot be myself. In that case, now the meditator does not identify oneself with this feeling. One sees them just a feeling, as a feeling process. They are processes which arise because of causal conditions, and they disappear because of causal conditions. So they are just phenomena which we have not much control of them. Little, yes, but not absolute control. So in the little control we have, we can't maintain this control for long, because these feelings, however pleasant feelings, for example, we might have, so very, very pleasant feeling we have, we can't take it and put in the bottle and seal it, tell, may this feeling never disappear from me. That is impossible. These feelings are just bubbles which appear in us. They give us some, it's called some idea that I feel something, but next time they burst like bubble and they go. So without our permission, they come, without our permission, they go. So therefore now we understand that is not a person there is not a woman, just the processes of feelings. This is for the sake of wide and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is called yatha bhutanyana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are, and not as we imagine them to be. And then the Buddha says, and one abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So the meaning is independent, not depending on craving and speculation or wrong views regarding the feelings. Not clinging to anything in the world means in the world, one does not cling to any feeling that this is myself or what belongs to myself. So therefore now, by observing the body, one can see how the body rises and falls. There is nothing static, something solid in our body. So, and that is something similar also happens with the feelings. There is nothing solid in our feelings. They also rise and fall. And this is how one has to not cling to this body or cling to this feeling, which are both impermanent. Now, regarding the observation of thought, that is another application of mindfulness. In our thoughts, anger can arise, desire can arise, delusion can arise. And there is on a way how people, they can also, who have a lot of thoughts in the mind, they can start observing the thoughts. Because some meditators, while they sit for meditation, they can't observe the breath, they can't observe the feelings because they have to think so many things. So many thoughts come in the mind. They get bombarded with all sorts of thoughts. So if you tell them to observe the breath, it's impossible. If you tell them to observe the feelings, impossible, because they have so many worries, so many imaginations sometimes in the mind. So the mind is very busy thinking. This is how they can start observing the thoughts. In this context, the Buddha says how to do so. And he says, one abides observing the thoughts as thoughts, urgent, fully aware, and mindful. Here again, these principles are the same. One should be energetic and not forgetful when observing these thoughts. So here he gives instructions how to observe the thought. There are many thoughts which can arise in our mind, as called sometimes countless. In that case, we don't observe the quantity of the thoughts. We try to observe the quality, what kind of quality certain thoughts have. So that is how the Buddha classifies the thoughts in certain according to the qualities. So now he says, one understands a thought with lust, desire, as a thought with lust or desire. Desire is very common in our thoughts, and this is a certain quality. Desire can be many desires, but the quality is desire. It means we have some wanting, some hope, some craving for something. All these are forms of desires. And many, many thoughts can arise. We don't see the quantity, we try to see the quality of the thought. So it can be lust, all these belong to this desire. So then that is, if such kind of thoughts arise on our mind, one can understand that the thought with desire is a thought with desire. So, but if the desire, this desire does not last for long sometimes, it can also disappear. That's why the Buddha says, one understands a thought without desire as a thought without desire. In that case, now you can see if we lose interest for an object, so that desire we had it before, it can disappear. So then in that case, another thought arises, a thought without desire. By observing these two opposite thoughts, one can understand that when we have a desire, there is tension in our mind, stress in our mind, because we are anxious to get what we want. But if this desire goes, there is some peacefulness in our mind. So in both cases, one can see that desire does not last for long, and also this not desire also does not last for long. Both are impermanent. So one can see that they have the same nature of rise and fall. So then another quality of our thoughts, it is anger. And then Buddha says, one understands a thought with hate or anger as a thought with hate or anger. Anger is very common in our mind. So we try, it can be many, many occasions how anger arises. We don't try to see the quantity, but only the quality. Because the quality is we get irritated, annoyed with certain things, and anger can arise in our mind. So that is the time when I can observe the anger as a thought in oneself and be aware of it. So then the Buddha says, one understands the thought without hate or anger as a thought without hate or anger. So then if anger subsides, there is a thought without anger. One can see the two opposites, because if there is anger in our mind, there is tension, as called a lot of stress in our mind. So, but if that anger goes away, there is another thought which comes, which is without hate or anger, which is more peaceful. But in both cases, one can see that, as called, the thought with anger rises and falls, and also the thought without anger also rises and falls. So one does not get attached to either or both. So another quality in our mind is delusion. Then the Buddha says, one understands a thought with delusion as a thought with delusion. So delusion can be all kinds of imagination we have. So worries we have, doubts, uncertainties we have. All these are called a kind of delusions which can arouse in the mind. And delusion in this case means lack of knowledge. We don't know exactly the object or what it is. If, for example, if we are in doubt regarding something, that's called we're in delusion. So if we're uncertain about something, we're in delusion. So then because we have not certain knowledge, certain it's called concrete knowledge, what to do, what not to do. So that is a kind of delusion. If we imagine, daydream and so forth, all these called diluted thoughts, this can be, and this occur every moment in us, because sometimes we fantasize, we imagine something and so forth, we're in doubt, and the mind is it's called wavering, has no direction. That is a kind of diluted mind. So therefore now, if such thoughts arise, one should be aware and to know, mentally note them as thought with delusion. But if that delusion goes away, then there is a kind of no delusion, the thought with no delusion. The Buddha says, one understands a thought without delusion as a thought without delusion. Now, if there is a delusion in our mind, there is tension. If there is no delusion, there is no tension, there is peacefulness. So one can compare how these thoughts change and so forth and see the impermanent nature of them. So now the insight meditation who comes here is again to observe the rise and fall of these thoughts. That's why the Buddha says, one abides observing the thoughts, the nature of rising or the nature of falling or the nature of both rising and falling. Here the same principle applies, and because thoughts also many times they stay, it's called, because one thought if rises, sometimes it does not go immediately, it stays for some time. So then there is a stage of staying also. That's why I can also see the rise, staying, and fall of thoughts. So now, therefore now the Vipassana meditation includes two parts, observation of mindfulness and awareness. The first part is knowing the object of observation, and the second part is Vipassana, which is seeing its nature of rise and fall. And the object of observation in this case is thoughts. And the Vipassana is to see the rise and fall of thoughts. So now, for your knowledge, if you can't know exactly what a particular thought is, as called whether it is anger, desire, and so forth, you may grossly understand it as thought or thoughts. A mental note, thought or thoughts, and see the rise, staying, and fall of these thoughts. So that is to see it grossly. If you can't understand, sometimes meditators can confuse, they can't analyze the thoughts, they know, they think a lot of things, but they can't figure out what kind of thoughts are there. So in that case, they can mentally note grossly, thought or thoughts, and see the rise and staying and fall of them. And mental note, rise, staying, fall. So, but if you can discern that is a thought with lust or desire, you mental note thought with lust or desire, and see the rise, staying, and fall of it. And mental note, rise, staying, and fall. So then if there is a thought without lust or desire, so then you mental note thought without lust or desire. So in mental note, and see the rise, staying, and fall. In mental note, rise, staying, and fall. If there is thought with anger, as called, you mental note thought with anger, and try to see the rise, staying, and fall. And mental note, rise, staying, and fall. If there is a thought without anger, you mental note thought without anger, and try to see the rise, staying, and fall, and mental note rise, staying, and fall. If there is a thought with delusion, you mental note thought with delusion, and try to see the rise, staying, and fall, and mental note rise, staying, and fall. If there is thought without delusion, you mental note thought without delusion, and try to see the rise, staying, and fall, and mental note rise, staying, and fall. So I will give you more practical instructions in the end how to do this. This is for just for general understanding. So then by doing so, by observing the thoughts, now one can come to the conclusion that mindfulness, that there is a thought, is simply established. Mindfulness, there is a thought, is simply established in oneself. We're going to explain that what means there is a thought. That is to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning is there is only the thought or a thought process. So not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not a self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. Because if you observe all these thoughts, one can see these processes. Many of these thoughts, we don't tell them to come. They come. We don't tell them to stay. They stay. We don't tell them to go. They go. If you observe the mind, actually, we can see thousands of thoughts come and go, come and go, come and go, like waves. So many of these thoughts, we never tell them to come. So then, even if we want to keep some of these thoughts, they go so fast and we can't grasp them. We can't understand. You forget them very fast. Our mind, it's a factory, if we tell, of thoughts. So it produces so many thoughts. So without our knowledge, we can think in a split of seconds, many thoughts. So therefore now, if we try to identify this is my thought, this is myself, that is just a delusion, an illusion we have regarding these things, because as called, there is nothing mind there. It's just processes which arise because of causal conditions, and they disappear also because of causal conditions. So therefore, one does not, in that case, one does not identify oneself with them. One gets detached from them. One does not cling to these thoughts. And this is for the sake of a wider and wider and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is called Yatha Bhuta Jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And then the Buddha says again, one abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. The meaning is independent, not dependent on craving, tanha, and speculation or wrong views regarding the thoughts. Not clinging to anything in the world means in the world one does not cling to any thought that this is myself or what belongs to myself. So this is regarding the thoughts, but there is another application of mindfulness which is called observation of mental and material phenomena. And we're going to explain this part because some people, they find it easy to observe also mental and material phenomena. And if they are more, they become more prominent in the mind. So, and we're going to explain how to do so. Here the Buddha says, one abides observing mental and material phenomena as mental and material phenomena. Again, ardent, fully aware, and mindful. So here there are the prerequisites, how to start and to know this mental and material phenomena. And now, mental and material phenomena, one easy way, there are different ways how to observe it. One very easy and one easy way it is with the sense organs, called, and also, for example, the eye and sense object like visual objects. Now, we know that visual objects play a big role for our moods, for our thoughts, for our emotions. So if we see a beautiful color, shape of an object, then we feel happy. If we see an ugly color and ugly shape, we feel unhappy. So from this, we can understand how visual objects play a big role for our emotions, for our thoughts, for our moods. So then without knowledge, that's called, they have a stimuli, they have a certain stimuli in our mind. And without our knowledge, sometimes we feel happy, sometimes we feel unhappy. That's called, because we have seen something and then it stimulates our mind and then it produces thoughts and feelings in us. So we think these thoughts and feelings, we produce them. But it's actually this object which we see depending on the, on the color, on the shape. So therefore, and this have impact in our knowledge. In Vipassana meditation, we can see how this visual object have impact in our mind and can start observing, as called this phenomena, which is mental and material phenomena. Material means visual object is material phenomena. The eye is a material phenomena. But if the visual object, yes, if the visual object impinges in our mind, so impinges in our eye, this causes thought to arise. This has impact in our mind. So, and we can produce feelings, thoughts, and so forth. So then without our knowledge, we're starting thinking about it, starting feeling about it. So this is how one can observe the correlation between material phenomena, which is a sense object and the sense organ with material phenomena, and how can impact our mental phenomena, the mind. Again, with the ear, we can hear sounds. Sounds also can affect our moods. If we hear sound, yes, if we hear sound, this can affect our moods. So then, and we know if it is a pleasant sound, we feel happy. If it's unpleasant sound, we feel unhappy. So sometimes without our knowledge, so this has impact in our mind. Therefore now, this also sounds play a big role in our mind, how we feel, how we think. Again, with the nose, we can feel smells. Smells, as called, if there's pleasant smells, we feel happy. If there are unpleasant smells, we feel unhappy. So then also this has impact, as called, to our mind. So through our nose. And then we have the tongue and also tastes. Taste, if there is a pleasant taste, we feel unhappy. If it is unpleasant taste, we feel unhappy. And this can, as called, has impact in our mind, how we feel. So then our happiness also and unhappiness depends on the tastes. So then, and then because of the body, if we touch something which is pleasant, tangible object which is pleasant, we feel unhappy. If it is unpleasant, we feel unhappy. So therefore now this tangible object has also impact on our body and also impact on our mind. And then we have, because of that, we have ideas. We collect all this information from visual objects, sounds, smells, tastes, and tangibles, and we think about them, and we feel about them. We have different perception about them. We have different ideas about them. So this is our world. Our world, therefore, it is these visual and so forth objects. So then, and then accordingly, our mood change, our thoughts change, our feeling change. So the meditator who observe all these things, one can start to see how these sounds, smells, tastes, and so forth, tangibles, they're also impermanent. Now, if we hear a sound, for example, observe for some time, those also rise and falls. So that is also impermanent. So then first is to identify them, to understand them, to discern them, to know them, this object, and later to practice Vipassana, how to see how these sense objects are impermanent, but also sense organs also are impermanent. So, and the thoughts which are produced because of these impermanent things, the feelings which are produced, they are also impermanent, and the ideas also are impermanent. So then that is how to practice this observation of mental material phenomena, but this is not the end, because now I told you this is the first part. So, and then the ideas also have impact on the mind. So then, therefore now, we all the time rotate around this cycle of stimuli from outside and from inside. So that is the first part, and that is the insight meditation, which comes second part. Here the Buddha says, one abides observing in the mental and material phenomena the nature of rising or the nature of falling or the nature of both rising and falling. Here again, we see the rise and fall principle. And this observation has to be done with mindfulness and awareness, and it has two parts. The first part is knowing the object of observation, and the second part is Vipassana, seeing its nature of rise and fall. In this case, the object of observation is mental and material phenomena, and Vipassana is to see the rise and fall of them. So then now this about the sense organ, sense object. So one can see all these phenomena, they all rise and staying and fall. There is nothing static there. There is nothing solid. All these phenomena, they change. they stay for some times and they fall. There is no any mental, permanent substance in them to support them. So then, therefore now, if you see a visual object, you can see how it rises and falls. You mentally not trying, staying, fall. If you hear sound, you mentally not rise, staying, fall. If you smell, you can see mentally not rise, staying, fall. If you test something, you can see rise, staying, and fall. If you touch something, you can see how it rises, staying, and falls. If you have certain ideas which are produced because of that, you can see how these ideas also rise, staying, and fall. So by doing so, the Buddha says, mindfulness, that there are mental and material phenomena, is simply established in oneself to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning is, there are only mental and material phenomena, not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not a self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. Here again, one does see only mental and material phenomena, not a kind of only processes, not a person there. It is actually only functions which rise and fall according to causes and conditions. And this is for the sake of a wider and wider and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is again called Yatha Bhuta Jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And the Buddha says, and on abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So the meaning is independent, not dependent on craving and speculation or wrong views regarding this mental and material phenomena, not clinging to anything in the world, one does not cling to any mental and material phenomena that these are myself or what belongs to myself. So now by doing this, by seeing this rise and fall of this phenomena again and again, one can attain a certain concentration, which is called concentration by insight meditation, because this rise and fall is repeated again and again. So, and the mind gets concentration on that. And therefore now about this Vipassana Samadhi or insight meditation, the Buddha says, and what is the development of concentration that leads to mindfulness and awareness? He says, here one knows feelings as they arise and they stay and as they disappear. So this is to see the rise and staying and fall of these feelings. Now by seeing this principle of rise, staying and fall, this is repeated not only for feelings. We remember, we should remember that it's repeated for the body. It repeats for the thoughts and also in other material phenomena. So therefore now, this rise and fall, it is something constant. It repeats itself again and again. This is how the meditator can attain a kind of concentration by seeing this constant principle of rise and fall. Again, the Buddha says, one knows perceptions as they arise, as they stay, as they disappear. So again, one can see here the rise, staying, and fall of the perceptions. Again, the Buddha says, one knows thoughts as they arise, as they stay, as they disappear. Again, here also, one can see this rise, staying, and fall. So then, now this principle of rise and staying, fall, because it repeats for every phenomena, whether it is material or mental phenomena. So it is a constant. Whether the meditator sees the body, or he sees the feelings, or he sees the thoughts, he sees the same thing, that this rise and fall is repeated again and again. That is why his meditation, his mind becomes concentrated on this constant rise and fall of this phenomena. Although the body is a different object, the mind is different object, the feelings are different object, they have a common characteristic which binds them together, this is the rise and fall phenomenon. So this is, by doing so, the mind becomes concentrated, does not get lost in this phenomena, although their quantity are, vast quantity of feelings can arise, vast quantity of thoughts can arise, vast quantity of bodily process can arise. They have a common characteristic that they rise, stay, and fall. So, and the meditator, by concentrating on this rise and fall, does not get lost because this remains constant, and he attains a kind of samadhi which is called Vipassana samadhi. So now regarding this principle of rise and fall, the Buddha mentioned it several times in other discourses also. We have, for example, in Dhammapada, a very famous statement of the Buddha. Here he says, even though one should live 100 years without comprehending how all things rise and fall, yet better indeed is a single day's life of one who comprehends how all things rise and fall. And the last words of the Buddha were, all phenomena have the nature of fall via Dhamma. Try to understand this with diligence. So now for those who attend the stream entry, who see for the first time Nibbana, so they are called the stream entries. They are called who attend Sotapanna. And what do they understand? Those who attend Sotapanna understand whatever has the nature to rise, all that has the nature to cease. So this statement, which is called here, I put it also in the Pali text, this statement is repeated again and again in the suttas for all those who have seen first time Nibbana, because they understood this principle of rise and fall. So there is nothing inside us or outside us who does not have this nature of rise and fall. This principle is which causes one to get detached of every mental phenomena, to be independent, to get liberated without clinging to any mental material phenomena because they are impermanent. Now, this understanding is called the eye of the Dhamma. This is called the Dhamma Chakku, that is the eye of the true nature of all phenomena. What is the nature of all phenomena? The nature rise, the nature to cease and fall. So, having seen this truth through the observance of rise and fall, a Sotapanna has severed the fetter of self-identity view or personality view, which is called Sakaya Ditti, skeptical doubt, which is called Vicikicca, and also adherence to rules and austerities with a belief that only these can bring about purification, liberation. So now in Buddhism, we have rules and ethical rules, of course, we have these kind of things, but Buddhists usually don't believe that only these rules can bring about liberation and purification. These are a means, but Buddhists also believe that one should practice samadhi, not only sila, it's called to practice samadhi and also vipassana in order to attain these things. Those who believe only rules and austerities can bring purification and liberation, that is something which is those who practice Vipassana meditation can overcome this kind of belief. So therefore now, the Sotapanna possesses the intellect which is excellent and liberating, leading to the complete cessation of existential suffering. So now regarding the observation which we have told with mindfulness and awareness, this is called as two parts. Now to put a summary, this is the first part, which is knowing the object of observation. And the second part, which is Vipassana, seeing its nature of rise and fall. In this, the knowing the object can be the body, and to see the rise and fall of it, can be the feeling, to see the rise and fall of it, can be the thoughts, to see the rise and fall of it, can be also mental and material phenomena, and to see the rise and fall of them. Now, this observation on the body, feelings, thoughts, and mental material phenomena, it is one thing, and also the Vipassana, it is the other part, which is to see the rise and fall of all these phenomena. So now, for the practical point of view, you can observe what is more obvious, evident, and noticeable to your experience. So now, if the body is more prominent, for example, the breath, you can start observing the breath. So if the feelings are more prominent, you can start observing the feelings. If the thoughts are more prominent, you can start observing the thoughts. If mental and material phenomena are more prominent, you can start observing mental and material phenomena. So you can also change, for example, if while you observe the thoughts, the thoughts disappear. So you can start, and the feelings become more prominent, you can observe the feelings. If again the thoughts come, you can go to the thoughts. So it depends what is more prominent. If, for example, there are no feelings, you can go back to the body, which is the breath. So while you observe the breath, so if the feelings become more prominent, you can go to the feelings. But afterwards, if the thoughts become more prominent, you can go to the thoughts. So you can switch back and forth regarding this phenomena. What is more prominent? That's why in this Vipassana, we choose the object which is more evident, noticeable to your experience. So now regarding the body, for example, for the in-breath, you mentally note in-breath 2-3 times, as called, and then you can see the rise of it, as called, you mentally note rise. For the out-breath, you mentally note out-breath and see the fall of it. So this is how you can observe the breath either in the nose or the chest or the belly, wherever it is more prominent. So for the in-breath, as called, you can also, if you can observe the breath at the tip of the nose, for the in-breath, you mentally note in-breath and see the rise of it. And also out-breath, you can see mental note out-breath and see the fall of it. The mental note fall. So you have to use these words, are very important for you to start observing this. Without these words, the mind does not know what to do. So then the object, you have to first identify, it's called name the object you observe, mentally note it, that's the breath, and see how this breath rises and falls. So that is how to see the in-breath and out-breath in a gross way. One can see it in a subtle way. For example, for the in-breath, you can see the rise and fall of the in-breath. That means the in-breath itself has a beginning and end, that is the rise and fall. And for the out-breath, as called, you can see the rise and fall of breath, because each out-breath has a beginning and end. This beginning and end is the rise and fall. Therefore, you mentally note in-breath, rise and fall, and also out-breath, rise and fall. So for the observation of feelings, so you can observe the pleasant, whether it's pleasant feeling or unpleasant, painful feeling or neutral feeling. So you can see the rise, staying, and fall of them. And mental note, rise, staying, and fall. For the observation of thoughts, so whether it's anger, desire, delusion, and so forth, you try to know what kind of thought this is and see the rise, staying, and fall of it. So a mental note, rise, staying, and fall. For the observation of mental material phenomena, so you can know what is the object, can be visual object, can be sound, smell, taste, and tangible. So, and see how this phenomena rise, staying, and fall. So in mental note, rise, staying, and fall. This is the explanation called regarding this application of mindfulness. So I could have explained this within 10 minutes. So, but I spent this time for you to know from where this information comes, what are the main principles, and to observe this mindfulness meditation, which of course it has not one part, it has 2 parts. And the Vipassana part is to see this impermanent nature which all these phenomena have, that is a rise and fall of all of them. So then this is how one can liberate it, not identify oneself with them, not to cling on them, and to be independent without any attachment to them. So then now, before we start, I will conclude my class here.